Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I am joined by none other than Johnathan Ferguson, Keeper of Arms and Artillery for the British Royal Armories. Did I get that right?
Firearms and Artillery.
Keeper of Firearms and Artillery for the British Royal Armories. How about that time?
Well, the trouble is now, and I need a much bigger name badge, I don't have one on at the moment, because the internet has now named me Johnathan Ferguson, Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armories Museum in the UK, home to thousands of iconic weapons throughout history, or words to that effect. And they will spell that out in every comment, in every video.
You have truly, in fact, you have become an internet celebrity.
Not on your level.
You're getting there? When we first met, neither of us were internet celebrities.
That's true.
I had a very small, very nerdy webpage, and you had pretty much just taken on this job, hadn't you?
I was 3 years in. I hadn't published anything as yet. I was very much finding my feet. So, yeah, we were kind of both starting out, really. Yeah. I suppose I was well into my museum career, but I was not very far into my firearms career.
Okay. And you have now, you pretty much single-handedly carry the Gamespot channel. I will say that because he won't.
I won't say that. What's weird is, and people have been saying this in the comments for years now, and it kind of makes me proud but embarrassed at the same time. It's not true in the sense that, like, I guess for the people who like the content that I do on there, it feels like it's keeping the thing going. And the one where I can kind of concede is that before our videos really kicked in, you'd see a lot of negative comments. I haven't really looked at the figures. Like, I don't think we have perceptively raised. I mean, our viewing figures for the series are fantastic.
Right. All the videos you're in do very, very well for them.
But so it's given people, you get far fewer negative comments about this review channel's terrible. But it's sort of polarized into people who like watching expert reacts, and not just me, but the other people they get, like Billy Billingham, who talks from a UK Special Forces angle, which is great. But obviously, I'm in most of them. People who love that, and people who like, what's this? Who cares about that? I'm here for game reviews and journalism. So they still have their core fan base. Then there's the Expert Reacts fan base, and there's obviously overlap there. But I am seeing a few people kind of going, "Oh, stop with this! I don't care anymore." But it's far outweighed by the people that do enjoy it.
Excellent. And I think so. It's a funny story. So I'll tell you guys. I did 2 of those sorts of videos of, rate the blank gun in a variety of video games, and because they had approached me and hey, do you want to do some of this? I'm like, actually, that'd be really fun. Like, I'd love to be sort of bouncing it back and forth with Johnathan. And I recorded 2 of them. I think it was just 2 in one session. And it was a lot of work, actually. And frankly, I don't have the video game background to be very good at it. And only when the first one published did I then also realize that it wasn't GameSpot. It was, I can't even remember now. It was one of their competitor channels, IGN, I think.
They're mortal enemies.
Yes. And I'm like, ooh. They were trying to make me the new Johnathan. That wasn't the plan. And so I've just completely stopped doing those. But you're really well suited for them, both because of your experience in firearms, your access to firearms here at the Armories. No matter what they come up with in a game, if it's a real gun, you can go grab one off the shelf and point and be like, oh, so they got this feature wrong because here it is on the real thing. And you have the experience in the background in video games. Like, you have a lot of fun playing a lot of video games.
I like to think I have enough in both areas to make, I guess it sets me apart a bit from the typical expert reacts is, well, some of them are kind of almost consciously serious academic published types who might even be a bit dry if they were just presenting a paper for a general audience. And then it's the sort of fish out of water scenario of they've got to react to this crazy thing they've never heard of or seen before, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know what's going on." And you get a bit of that with me because I'm not like a hardcore gamer or anything, and there's stuff that I miss. I haven't played any Metal Gear games, which I get not abuse, but like, what do you mean you've never played those?
Yeah.
And I have a reasonable grounding in the firearms side. And for a British museum curator, some practical experience as well.
Yeah.
Nothing like your level. But all of that together, I think, for my sins, as we say, makes me a good fit for that. And that's why they keep coming back. And they also do the little documentary series, Loadout, which I think people were not really... It's taking off now, bolstered by the reaction stuff, which is... So I'm just a talking head on that, like any documentary sort of series. They're really good. The latest one is on the legally different aspects. Because as you say, I can sometimes I'll be commenting on, oh, they've got that perfect, or this isn't quite right. Real nerdy kind of compare and contrast stuff. But a lot of games are drifting away from slavish accuracy for, to sum it up as quickly as I can, perceived legal issues.
Oh, geez, I didn't even think about that
IP
being
Activision in particular
it's not good,
paranoid.
It's not good enough that they will refuse to identify any firearm by its actual name.
The name thing's a done deal. Back to GoldenEye, legally different names are recognized as you must do that because they're often protected trademarks. But there's a whole other rabbit hole here that Dave gets into in this video with a bit of help from me.
Trade dress.
Trade dress is a US thing, but obviously the US is a huge market, so they can't ignore it. And there are design patents as well, which might factor in. And HK, by suing people, has given us the trade dress for the MP5.
Oh, good Lord.
For example. So, but it's all highly theoretical because no video game gun has ever been the subject of a legal case. There's the Bell Helicopters versus EA case about helicopters in Battlefield.
There was a Humvee case, wasn't
there?
There
was a Humvee case, which was won by the game publisher, and which was Activision. And they are the most averse to this risk, which is, as far as I can tell, completely theoretical.
That said, in the US, the legal system is often such that if you have to defend yourself, you've already lost from a monetary perspective.
And this is it.
Like, I'm sure it cost them so much to win that case that they're terrified about having to do it again.
Yeah. The bottom line is, I think, that the relatively small risk of someone suing and the cost and hassle that will incur is not worth a few people like me going, oh, it's bang on, guys, well done.
Yeah.
Because who cares? The average gamer really isn't going to care or notice the difference. But it's surprising how many are a bit sad about how video game guns are starting to be a bit different. We're even seeing some that are invented purely for the game in otherwise real-world games.
So that is an interesting subject to me, because I have done a couple videos on guns from video games that were made real. The two in particular are the Type 93 assault rifle from Fallout and the M90 shotgun from Halo. And I feel like there's a fairly small, narrow band in between the completely fictional, energy weapons and blasters and just art design guns, and the realistic portrayal of totally authentic guns that you'll get in a lot of the more historical or more modern combat games. There's this little narrow band in the middle of guns that are made up, but sort of based on real guns that could hypothetically be real.
Yes.
And it sounds like perhaps we're getting more of that now?
If it continues to go the way it's going, at least for AAA level games like Call of Duty, then yeah, we're going to start to see, and maybe even swing back to licensing where, it's a kind of an outside case, but it could become more of a thing. Arma 3, which is a very realistic milsim type game.
I haven't played it, but I'm aware of it.
Same here, to be honest.
Okay.
Weirdly, they came up with a generic present, current year assault rifle for that game, even though they have real, properly represented guns in the game as well. And it was like the standard rifle of one side, I think. And that completely confused me.
Interesting.
When I was presented with that. But that is an obvious solution to this issue. It's plausible. It works in a plausible way. It sort of feels real, sounds right, probably using the effects from a real gun.
Yeah.
They could go entirely that way. I really hope they don't. At the moment, we're in a middle ground where the smaller studios are kind of head below the parapet. Hopefully we won't get sued. Let's do it anyway. different name but same, correct
Right.
design, and then everyone else is kind of coming down somewhere either side of that, and you get results like the god awful MP5 from Modern Warfare 2, the second Modern Warfare 2,
Okay.
of recent times, and then Modern Warfare 3. Which is even more recent, and the MP5 in that has the stupid legally different name. Who really cares? Few
Annoying,
people.
but whatever.
Yeah.
What did they do to the design? I have to admit, I haven't even looked at this.
I hesitate to show you it. It's so the classic. Now I think you've probably seen modified MP5 front sight where the top of the sight protector has been cut off for some reason.
Okay.
I think I saw somebody do that. God knows why, but that's the default in this. So they've because that's one of these iconic features that's cited in the trade dress. The mag well is a completely different shape. There's no paddle release for the mag. There's only a push button. The whole proportions of the upper receiver.
It's a ban era. They just made it the HK94.
It's the same. Well, it's worse. It's worse because the receiver is out of proportion. It's too short to look right or work. The Chris Vector, weirdly, because Chris is really open to working with game companies.
Yeah.
Is all squished and weird looking.
It's almost funny to me that we don't see deliberate attempts to license guns like Chris, who frankly I have to assume their business model is largely based on people buying the gun because it looked cool in a game, because no serious military force that I'm aware of is ever going to buy a Chris Vector. But I'm surprised you don't get deliberate, like Chris offering to pay a game company specifically to use their name and their exact license, and game companies soliciting it.
So this is where we go right down the rabbit hole. That was a thing. So Modern Warfare 1 or 2, forgive me if I can't remember which one, the ACR was very prominently branded Remington in a way that's not actually realistic. The real thing doesn't have that in that place.
Yeah.
But, because there was a licensing deal. Barrett were licensing their guns pretty freely. Chris have done it as well. And I should say, very grateful to Chris because they have made it so for us to get a couple of vectors.
Oh, nice.
However much traction they get in the real world, they absolutely are iconic in the virtual world and in the movies and stuff. So, But so companies like that were quite proactive about licensing. There was then a very serious legal / political backlash to that. Bushmaster got flack, I believe, for it's like, and in certain jurisdictions, it's like tobacco advertising.
Okay. You're advertising to minors.
People are going to go out and shoot each other because they played with a gun in Call of Duty.
Right.
Discuss. Personally, I don't think so. But that's the concern, and that's so it went from great PR, sell loads of guns, to which is, and even though a lot of gun companies would still want to license, that backlash has affected the developers and the publishers more so they no longer want to seek these licenses. Or if they do, they don't want the name front and center. They might do it for the likeness. And you won't know because it's not being done for the likeness, and they're not doing promo videos with them.
Right.
Medal of Honor Warfighter did a very overt licensing deal. So this is still going on.
Okay.
But it's more discreet.
Now, what could become interesting is if some of these generic, not actually a gun, end up being things that can be replicated as real guns without too much difficulty. And it becomes, I want to have the Blast-O-Matic 2000 from, Call of Honor Warfare 8. And if you start with, you take a Brownell's BRN 180 receiver, and then you put this handguard on it, and that grip, and that folding stock, and you use this off-brand of magazine, there you go.
So to briefly...
It's going to completely come full circle around the back of where it started.
Yeah, to branch out the conversation a little, but I think it'll be useful with the HK thing. So the MP5, again, iconic design. We know what features are deemed protected in US law. The reason that trade dress was written, defined, because otherwise it's kind of nebulous, know till it comes up, really. GSG, German sport guns, their 22 replica, they were sued, and then not quite sued again, but like a legal fist shake was made because their first attempt to redesign it wasn't different enough, and now we have the GSG-9, I think, which is quite an appropriate name to give it. But that is so derived now that no lawyer is going to be able to really pick holes in that. But it does still have enough of an MP5-ness about it that a lot of people wouldn't care. So what you could do is GSG now license the Activision version of the gun, and suddenly it's a real gun again, albeit in 22, but someone could do it in 9mm.
Yeah.
And now the real becomes virtual, becomes real again, and HK are on the sidelines going, "Joe,
wait, what? We do not understand this."
I'm not sure that the German HQ does understand any of this.
Oh,
HK
good
USA,
heavens, no.
full of gun guys.
Oh yeah,
they know
HK
exactly
USA
what's
is
going
great.
on.
Yeah,
great guys as well. I'm not saying HK Germany aren't, but they do not understand the culture.
they don't.
I'm not sure they understand the game culture either, necessarily.
I was about to say, not only do they not understand game culture, they totally don't understand gun culture.
Oh, I was thinking of gun.
Yeah, and I don't think they
applies.
want to either. I don't want to turn this into a gripe session about HK, but HK is not the like, they don't have any real awareness of their position in anything, I don't think.
Or if anyone senior has the awareness, they would rather they didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
And that overlap, thinking of the backlash with licensing there to do with politics, and
only a company like HK would look at the massive popularity of their gun in a massively popular game and immediately decide that it's a bad thing.
Yeah, but at the same time, even they haven't decided to sue anyone over that. There's just the Humvee case, which was went well for the publisher, but they still are very, very paranoid. And there's the EA Bell Helicopters case, which was settled out of court, which sort of speaks to this, it's going to cost us a fortune even if we win thing.
Yeah.
So no one really knows. It's very it's fascinating. Recommend the Loadout video on GameSpot for a broader. We got quotes.
That's really cool.
Quotes from actual developers, and I'm not sure about publishers.
Nice.
So the answer is, as ever, it depends.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we know more. We're further ahead than we were.
Okay.
And there is an artistic license element to it as well, because if you're directed by the publisher, we would prefer you didn't slavishly copy. Then that automatically means there's some artistic license as well.
All right. Well, cool. It's always fun talking to you, and you have some breadth of experience in areas that are totally different from the stuff that I have experience doing.
Yep.
So I am here for a while filming a number of cool guns, and I think we're going to have time. I think we're going to do a bit of a Q&A video as well.
Yep.
So by the time you see this, that's either happened or not. So I apologize, but don't put questions in the comments because it will have already been filmed. But I'm looking forward to that video where we can talk about some various other experiences that you have working here in the Royal Armories.
Yeah, I'm sure we can make that happen.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for the chat about video game guns. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.